Hello, I'm Craig DeRoche, the CEO of Family Policy Alliance. Folks, the signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill into law is a historic achievement for America, especially for social conservatives, but many people are unsure on what's included in that. And I want to tell you, there are some massive victories and there's some whoppers of stupidity that's in there, but that's what our Congress is known for. And this warrants us explaining it because there are some massive victories that we should be celebrating. To answer this, I'm joined by one of our nation's top conservative leaders, Bob Vander Plaats. Since 2010, Bob has been the president and CEO of the Family Leader in Iowa. It is one of our largest and most influential family policy councils. That you listen to this show, you watch it, there are 40 family policy councils together, over 60 million in infrastructure, working with 50,000 churches. I'm talking with the founder, the shop that actually created the Church Ambassador Network, is housed out of Iowa. He is a unique vision in this. A lot of people come through Iowa, as you know, when they're running for president. It's a privilege to have you on here today, Bob, to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill and how this affects families in the states. So what the federal government has done. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, Craig, thanks for that introduction. And let me give you a shout out to you and the Family Policy Alliance. What a great organization. I think Tip O'Neill said it, and you're a former Speaker of the House. He's former Speaker of the U.S. House, saying that all politics is local and the real power is in the states. And I think what you're even seeing in the One Big Beautiful Bill is it was the power of the collective states coming together that really moved some things in the right way for a change. Now it all takes leadership from Trump and others. But you're right, Craig, there's some missed opportunities as well. But I'm sure we'll get into all of that. But thank you for your leadership. So blessed to be a part of this movement.
Thank you, Bob. Now, one of our victories, we didn't talk about it a lot because the other side is really good at negotiating. They're really good, Bob. And you and I know this because you work with Governor Reynolds there, and you've had some shenanigans there when you got back control. Folks, when Obama was president, Iowa had Democrats winning everywhere. Bob Vander Plaats started in 2010. It's a ruby red state now because work was done in the state. It wasn't all Bob, but the family leader is largely responsible for a lot of this. God has used them in this way. The states know, Bob, that when the Senate and the House start saying things like, oh yeah, those are hard. Maybe we should do that in two bills. What that's code for is we're not going to change anything. We're going to try to confuse you. So our vulnerable members can vote yes on this one and no on that one. And we can keep the stupid going for another generation. We won that negotiation for one bill. Tell us about that. How hard was that for social conservatives to take on the chamber types in the federal government?
Yeah, I think you saw what it was. It was a real demonstration of what the movement can be. Because we talk about all this at the state level, right? So we have a lot of different states, but we have access to our U.S. senators. We have access to our U.S. congressmen. And you also have national peers, whether that be our pro-life peers like SBA, Pro-Life America in Washington, D.C., the national level, or Family Research Council, or some others. But it was all of us working together and communicating and leveraging what we had to make sure that the confusion did not win the day, that our issues were highlighted and we meant it. And we're going to take President Trump at his word, promises made, promises kept. But it was also, there's kind of a yin and a yang to this, right? So, in leadership, Craig, I know in leadership that you want to create urgency. And President Trump understands that. So he created urgency that I want to sign that bill on July 4. But in this case, but that urgency may have allowed for some fast negotiations that left some things in the dust that we really wanted in the bill. Okay. But Trump also knew if I didn't create the urgency, if I want to sign that bill on July 4, they were going to stall out and probably do nothing. And so maybe it's a blessing in disguise. As I tell people, this big, beautiful bill was really a big, beautiful first step, but there's a lot more to do.
So thank you. And I talk a little bit about being a former speaker. I was minority leader too. Speaker is a much better job, Bob. And we have a wonderful Speaker of the House in America.
Amen.
Mike Johnson. And people are starting to realize this too on the other side of this, because going in the new year, everyone is like, wait a second, this guy is not up to the job. He's getting rookie, blah, blah, blah. And Twitter and Elon Musk were really quick to say this guy's not a real conservative. Turns out that Elon Musk was trying to get his $38 billion a year of federal government subsidies for his car company and his rocket company. So he wanted like the big, beautiful bill to actually spend more money. That was what he was doing. Mike Johnson didn't even call him out in January 1. He just ate it, quietly moved forward with the farthest he could get. It still grows a deficit, folks, but it was like a $2 trillion a year problem we had as a country. And now it's $3 trillion, maybe over a decade, with no growth in the economy. They actually structurally are changing the basis of our budget. And this guy, Mike Johnson, just seems to keep on taking the abuse. I think maybe, it's God, he's resting in God's shade, Bob. But what should we think of Mike Johnson through all this? As we've seen him perform without really a base of people that are willing to defend him.
I'm becoming a real Mike Johnson fan. Now, obviously, he's one of us, right? He's part of the movement. He came from the movement, and now he's Speaker of the House. So it's exciting to watch how God has used him and how God is equipping the called. And I view Mike Johnson, Craig, as just kind of a happy warrior. He always has a smile on his face. He keeps moving ahead, and he does it very strategically and methodically. So what Mike has done, you're right, he didn't call Elon Musk right away. But what he did in Elon Musk's philosophy was cutting your government's okay, just don't cut my government, right?
Exactly.
That's the Doge deal here. And, now Trump's calling him out too. But Mike Johnson is the person for the moment. And so we should give praise to that, because the only reason he's Speaker of the House is that was God answering prayers to raise somebody up. And we didn't have the specific name of Mike Johnson, but God gave us Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson, I believe, is why we secured some of the wins that we secured.
And we want to talk about that, because some of these things are a bit weedy. And I'm not going to talk about them in the weedy level. I'm going to talk about them at the parental level, because that's what Bob and I get paid the big money for, is to tell you guys, so what? So what? School choice. You've all been hearing about that since the 80s, maybe, or the 90s. Hey, we give a monopoly to anything, and the people running that monopoly stop performing. You'll know it by its fruit. We've been advocating as Christians for competition for generations. We've advocated for that with billions of dollars. I'm from Michigan. We've invested tens of millions of dollars in statewide ballot proposals and gotten beaten. Hear this group, Bob, this ragtag group of soldiers that get so much critique in D.C., Donald Trump, Speaker Johnson, Senator Thune, they do something that hasn't even been reported yet, I don't think. But folks in the states now can do stuff to save their tax money and go to private schools. Folks, that's the first time in history. It's called the ECCA. It's a tax credit for folks, and it's going to allow people that aren't just rich people looking for a tax break, but middle and low income earners to send their kids for the first time with federal support to alternative schools, Bob. That's something our movement hasn't been able to say out loud yet, but one of the reasons I wanted to interview you today.
It's huge. I mean, and in Iowa, we pass school choice at the state level, right? But now what they're saying, Craig, if I understand this tax credit right, which I believe I do, it's a dollar for dollar tax savings on your federal tax bill. So sure, there's a lot of parents, middle income, lower income, they still owe federal taxes. This is a dollar for dollar tax savings on your federal tax bill if you want to send it to a scholarship fund to the Christian school of your choice. That is a big deal. As a big proponent for school choice and giving the states like Iowa and other states the backing when we have passed school choice already.
Absolutely. And I wanted to start with abortion. We talked about Planned Parenthood, but I'm going to go through, I'm going to tick through some of these other wins that were in there. I promised you, and we're going to talk about a couple other things that I lost sleep about, Bob. But Planned Parenthood, folks, one of the other things that I want to say in here is a bit of an aside. The other side's been talking about attacks on democracy, Bob. We know this for 4-6 years. It's a branding thing that some consultant to the Democratic Party said, let's escalate this to where we're betting on democracy itself. And they've been trying to market that. But what's been bothering me is some of these leftist organizers actually think it's providing them cover to do it. So one of the things that we're fighting with today is Planned Parenthood was defunded, folks, by a vote, because Speaker Johnson and Donald Trump were smart enough to see on Saturday that if they sent that back to the Senate, that not only were we going to get transgender funding in Medicaid, which is in there, but they were going to refund Planned Parenthood because they think, Bob, this is my commentary, but I'd love to get your reaction. Since 2010, those of us social conservatives, what they've done as a model is they found that if they put a big poison pill into the bill that they can get to a majority on, that we take our toys out of the sandbox and go, that's in there, I'm going home. Yes, I will let you fund Planned Parenthood for another 15 years. And in 2009, we said that because I'm afraid to take the victories that I just got, the small ones, and be incremental in my service to the Lord. I am afraid of my reelection. This group is not afraid of this world. They said, you know what? If I send this back to the Senate, people on Twitter might think I'm more fiscally conservative for another 48 hours. Or I can stop Planned Parenthood funding maybe forever for the rest of my life. And we have a bunch of heroes in the Senate and the House. I'm saying to you, Bob, this is why I wanted to shoot this. I'm a former speaker of the minority leader, and I wanted people to hear, and I wrote a similar op-ed for the speaker in the new year because I could see this coming. If you want to know how we're $37 trillion in debt, it was for the last 3 or 4 speakers and Senate leaders. We said, you know what? That's too heavy of a lift for me to vote my values and to take a win punt. I'm just going to take the easy position and badmouth you. And we allowed the leftists and the K Street Republicans to write the bill, but we got our joy in just being able to say we don't like it. This time we took control of the entire negotiating process. And when we had all these wins stacked up, we literally pushed back from the table, Bob, Saturday. And that disoriented me. I lost sleep over it because they put stuff in. But we won on Planned Parenthood. Today, the left is trying to eliminate our Constitution and say that when the 2/3 of the government, they remove it from the budget, and the president signs a bill now that the court can put the money back in. So we're getting the debate, Bob, that we've been wanting to have for 6 years right now. Which party is trying to eliminate the Constitution today? And I'd love to get your take on the Planned Parenthood funding, and was it worth it to end the negotiations to do that?
Definitely. And I think you bring up 2 things. One is those who are elected to office. We want people elected to office who are playing for an audience of one. And by the fact of playing for an audience of one, they bless the constituents in which they serve. And we're getting more and more elected office holders who are really called to serve, and they're shutting out the white noise, and they're playing for an audience of one. And they believe this stuff. They believe we should stop the taxpayers' funding of abortions and killing the babies. They believe that. But 2 is, I think it's smart politics. Life is winning. The taxpayers, whether they're on the pro-abortion side or the pro-life side, they agree on you shouldn't be paying taxpayers dollars to fund these abortions.
Right.
So it's smart politics that lines up with really good principles, right? So that's where they should have put their stake in the ground. The other part of it is that the Democrat Party is doing a lot of assessment. Why did we lose? Why did we lose all these seats? Why is Donald Trump president again? Because they stuck all their hope on the abortion issue. And they found out that wasn't going to carry the day anymore. I believe life is winning. And I always believe you're never wrong when you do what is right. And right now, these guys are doing what is right. I would like to see that Planned Parenthood was defunded for the full decade, 10 years. But taking a baby step that you talked about, the incremental approach, taking that 1 year, now we'll build on that. But let's get 1 year out of their funding at least.
And then we'd get, for the first time, folks, in a very long time, the American culture without the federal government. And it does something else. And I wanted to bring this up with you, Bob. One of the things that was brought up in the negotiations overnight, I can't share a lot about what was going on, but this is going to come out. And I wanted to break some news for our movement. President Donald Trump has a lot of experience now in the games of Washington, D.C. He was one on abortion. Planned Parenthood is defunded in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And they decided that their poison pill would be to put transgender surgeries and Medicaid back in. And this was the week that the Supreme Court called this what it is, evil. This is the week. There's no civil protections for this, by the way. If you're listening to this and you're a school teacher that talked about it, or a hospital system or a doctor, your pension, your house is in jeopardy right now. Juries are not going to like you when your actions are described to them, but they put that funding back in. And this is normally when we would have pushed back from the table, Bob, and said, then I'm out. I'm out. But we have President Trump as the president. And what was brought up was, Harvard and UPenn get federal money too in the budget that we don't have the votes to remove. But the president was able to use that as a nexus to the money that we gave them to go in. And it went so far as UPenn is now writing handwritten apology notes to this. So, Bob, that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was, man, I lost sleep for the right reasons. That is evil in an American budget. Our tax dollars should never have gone to any of this. Our tax should be helping the victims of this. But we have a president right now that said, you know what, that's hilarious. This is in there. I think I'm going to take a look at what's been going on with transgender surgeries in these health systems right now. So I actually, folks, went from losing sleep to saying, well, Donald Trump now has it funded, the ability for us to go and investigate the last 20 years and map out what these evil folks have been doing in our schools, in our county, health systems and everything else. Bob, so I actually have a lot of hope. I know that this one big beautiful bill is going to have good and bad in it, but even the bad, I just wanted to give some compliments to our side because they're being strategic for a change, and they're trying to actually, it seems like they're fighting out of our corner rather than patting us on the head, Bob.
That's well said, Craig. All of that is well said. And because there's no doubt, I'd like to see transgender surgeries completely defunded and being called out for what they are. They're mutilating kids. This is child abuse at the highest degree. This is evil. The Supreme Court is right in that. But I do rest in the fact that what Satan means for evil, God will use for good. And so what's happening, and the New York Times even reported about it, is they're out kicking their coverage. And what there's this New York Times author wrote about, saying it's causing the institution of marriage to collapse, same-sex marriage to collapse. Because same-sex marriage was built on Sally and Betty just want to have a garden together and live together. They're not going to affect your life whatsoever. But now they want to control your kids. Now they want to transgender your kids. They want to be in your girls' sports. They want to do all this other stuff. And America's going, we've had enough of this stuff. And so what you're seeing is that just like life is winning today, I think biblical marriage is going to start winning again today. And so as they outkick their coverage, don't think that's all a loss. Let them outkick their coverage. Because what Trump is smart enough to do he's going to expose what's actually taking place. And when he exposes what's taking place, that will cause us to recoil and go back to God's principles and precepts.
Amen, Bob. And thank you for that. And folks, that's exactly what's going on. You'll know it by its fruit. So the rising generation is discovering this. We at the Family Policy Alliance and our family policy councils seek to serve you. If you're not already affiliated with the Family Leader, you need to be. They have a huge conference that I believe is already sold out, but sometimes some tickets get cut loose. And you should check them out. The Family Leader is one of the finest examples in America of a family policy council. They have taken a state that was adrift politically, moving away from family values, and they have built and solidified it in a way where they can serve families where they live all the way up to the governor's office. We want that in your state, but it begins when you sign up to be involved in your state. Below is a list of the 40 state organizations we have, which means we still have 10 states we need to found. If you're interested in growing one of those, you can work with the Bob Vander Plaats, the Victoria Cobbs, and Michael Gears of the world, and just raise your hand, email us. We need you. There's a lot of work ahead of us, and it begins with your activity in your state FPC. Please join us today. Thank you for hearing us with this, folks. It is confusing. It is hard work, but you have put us in the rooms that matter on your behalf, and we're going to report back to you as we can. Thank you, and God bless you until next time.